Hey, everybody. Welcome to our next virtual guest speaker series in MKT353 Sports Marketing. I'm excited to have our next guest, Britt Kleine, who is is really a really well experienced and I think a dynamic personality, and someone that I'm really excited to have speak to you guys in sports. Britt comes from sort of maybe that non-traditional sports background in terms of not working directly for one of the big professional leagues, but more on the recreational and nonprofit side. So please, let's welcome Britt Kleine.
Thanks, JP. Oh, thanks for the wave. I can't see everyone, but that was nice, Andrew. I like that. Hi, everybody. How you doing? As JP said, my name is Britt. Most people don't know this, so not to put JP on the spot, but I've just gotten a habit. My last name is Kleine. It's weird. It's an E, but I just, it's So, hi.
Britt, I knew that because, so Britt and I used to work at the Special Olympics together, and our Eric Cushing was my boss, but a colleague, and he used to call her Kleine, and I always thought it was just a fun nickname, but I knew it was Kleine. I just didn't want to say it because it was sort of.
It's weird. No, it's all good. It's like
right.
It looks like Calvin Klein. You have an E. You don't know what sound it's going to make. So, anyways, my name is Britt. It's a pleasure to be on with you this morning. I smiled a little bit when JP said dynamic personality. I tend to read people's faces when I'm talking, and they're either like, what in the world is happening? There's too much energy, or you're just weird. And yeah, that's just who I am. So either you're going to enjoy this, or you're going to be like, JP, please never have Britt back again. With that, jumping in just to a few things. I know JP mentioned sort of going over my background, current role, and some advice that I have for you. Not sure how it typically works with your guest speakers, but I definitely love interaction and engagement, which is always challenging in the virtual realm. But at any time, if you have questions, comments, whatever, please do jump in. I am an open book, so really there's almost no question that I won't answer. And if I don't want to answer, I'll kind of let you know. But yeah, so not sure if anybody has already picked it out, but I have a little bit of an accent. I grew up in Canada. I am an American, dual American-Canadian citizen, but I spent most of my life in Canada, moved to Philadelphia about 10 years ago for my master's, and I went to Drexel for sport management. And I've been here in Philly ever since. So in terms of my sports background, when I was young, I was bullied really badly. I was super, super shy. I would not ever speak to anybody. In fact, up to probably grade 5 or 6, somebody looked at me or tried to speak at me to me, I would cry or hide or something. It was very strange. My parents were like, we need to find a way to get this kid socializing, and they put me into sports. I play, still kind of play, but played a sport very similar to ice hockey. It's called ringette. It is not very popular here, but it's similar to ice hockey. And I started to play, and my parents kept encouraging me to go back and go back. And over the years, I really started to figure out kind of my personality, and I developed whatever the heck I am now at this point. I just kind of put myself out there and really learned kind of the value of sports and why they're so important. And we can kind of jump into that. But I started to really step up and find who I was. I was the captain for probably 20 to 22 of my many, many seasons. I also played softball in high school. I was the captain of the varsity team. So sports really helped me kind of figure out a lot about myself. And that's sort of why I wanted my career to go in the sports direction. In college, I figured out I did my undergrad in communication. So I have a bachelor's of arts in communication studies, has a side of critical thinking, which is a delightful skill. I hope you all have it. And I decided that after that, the sports world is where I wanted to be. Recessions, it didn't matter what would happen in the world. And when I was going to school, the recession was a thing. the sports industry was always booming, and I wanted to work for pro sports. I wanted to one day be like the top of, the actual NHL office. Like that was just going to be my goal. So I was like, USA is where you got to go if you want to learn about sports. If I want to learn about wine, I'm going to go to France or Italy. You go to the place where it's the best. So that's sort of how I decided to make my move. And we'll talk about some of that when I get to some advice for you guys in terms of the strategy. But I came to the States, and at the same time, I learned about Team USA for ringette. And I was fortunate enough to make that team. So I've played for Team USA at the Ringette World Championships. This sport is not in the Olympics, so it's not very cool. But I played at 4 World Championships as the captain of Team USA. I have a couple medals, unfortunately. No golds. I was not good enough to get us the gold. But it was a really cool experience for me, kind of seeing, my passion as a kid in sports through to a really high level, really the highest level that I could perform at. And that just kind of solidified why I felt sports was really, really important. So going to the career side of my life, I started working at a super young age. My first job was when I was 12. And I found myself in a lot of male dominated roles. I worked at a hockey camp, and within a couple of weeks, the leaders of the camp, they wanted me to take over and manage. And I had 5, 6 direct reports that were all guys, and that really helped me even further kind of establish myself, my personality, and find that confidence. I also sprayed pesticides. I was a pesticides technician, which I think some of you might be thinking might be why I'm a little bit quirky. That's not why. I was quirky before, but I ran a group of 5 trucks, all men as well. And then I went into the hardscapes world. I worked at a landscape yard, and then I got put into the office, and I led the office again, all guys. But what I think helped me through all of those experiences was really kind of that team dynamic that I learned from the sports world, right? I kind of understood, there's always someone on the team that's either going to be the underdog or have a little bit of a dynamic. And there's ways that when you come onto a new team, and I'm going to guess that most of you who played sports, your team is never the same every year, right? You got a couple new players that come onto the team, and you got to find a way to gel because you still have to accomplish a goal. And one thing that I was really good at and continue to be very good at, which is why, I did often get voted captain, was finding ways to bring people together to accomplish whatever those goals were. And I really was applying those lessons and values into my career, which is why I much of why I attribute some of my success to. So came down to the States, did my school thing. And I'm sure there's many of you on this call who want to work for, a major sports team. JP kind of said at the beginning, I'm a little bit non-traditional, or you want to be an athletic director. My guess is like that probably nails about 75 to 80% of the folks on the call. And if not, I love that too. But I wanted to work in pro sports, and I started to interview, and I interviewed with the Philadelphia Flyers. And what I started to learn was everybody wants those jobs, right? And I'm coming out of school, master's degree, a poop ton of experience. I played for a national sports team. I've got a pretty stacked resume for a new person entering the work world. But because so many people wanted in that industry, 1, it was highly competitive. And 2, even if you did get it, are you allowed to swear on these calls? I swear a lot. I won't do it. The salary was poop, like just poop, like not, I didn't want it, right? And I recognize that that's kind of a starting standard, but for me, that wasn't going to be good enough. So I started to think outside of the box, and that's how I kind of came across Special Olympics. And I loved Special Olympics because it really married so many of the things that I've learned over my life, and the importance of sports, and making sure that everybody understands their value and feels confident and learns different skills and life skills. And it gave me an opportunity to, because it was a nonprofit, which I'd never dreamed of. I've always wanted to be, as I said, NHL head office, big positions, big money. But it allowed me to start at a higher level. So they didn't have all of these dynamic departments, right? There were 1 or 2 people departments kind of running the entire state of Pennsylvania. And I came in as the events and marketing manager. So right out of the gate, I had an awesome title for starting. I had a decent starting entry level pay because it was a manager. And the other thing that I loved was, if someone goes and looks at my resume, and this is what I was thinking, you always want kind of those buzzwords. And I was like, Special Olympics is going to jump out. Everyone's going to kind of, whoa, let me read that and see. So for me, strategically, it was a really smart move. And my play was always, okay, let me build up some of my experience. And then when I'm in a position where, I have a lot more to bring to the table, let me go back to kind of the professional world and get in at a higher level. That was sort of the goal. So I'm in Special Olympics. It's about 10 months in, and the program director for the Philadelphia program specifically puts in her notice. And JP mentioned Eric Cushing before, who was my boss at the time, and he was the VP of marketing, I believe. He and I were talking, and it was, Kleine, like, you can do this. And I'm like, yeah, I can. Let's go. Now, the problem was, not a problem, but a fun challenge. Every person who'd held this position before me was like on the downside of their career. Like, they were 50 years plus, tons and tons of experience, nonprofit, worked with schools, worked with all these things. I was 10 months into my professional career. I actually just graduated from my master's a few months before, but I knew that I could do it. And that's something, whether you've tried out for a sports team before, right? Like, you just know, even if people don't think you can, or you're the new guy on the team, new gal on the team, like, no, I've got what it takes. I can do this. So I sat down with the, what was her title? Claire. I think she was the senior vice president of programming, and kind of pitched my case. And it came back to, what, Britt, like, we think you can do it. It's just, you're just too young. Like, you don't have the experience. And I kind of said, listen, I understand where you're coming from. I really do. But before you totally turn me away, I would appreciate, tell me what your exact concerns are. Let me try to talk through those with you and show you, what I would do. And if we both kind of have this conversation, you're still not confident, then I'm happy to stay in the role that I'm in. But I know I can do this, and I know I can take the program to the next level and bring some new life. So, long story less long, I got the opportunity to kind of pitch a strategy to both her and the CEO, and they had me in a room, and they said, Britt, inside this room, we're going to let you know that we think this is a risk. We are not 100% confident, but we believe that, you want it, and you're going to do everything you can to be successful. So we're going to give you the job. And when we leave this room, no one's going to know that we're not sure. We're 100% unified, and that you are the absolute right person for the job. But like, you need to kick ass. You need to crush. So I got the job. I think I just turned, I don't know, maybe 28, maybe I was 28 at the time. I think I did some pretty amazing things. And a lot of it's because I had that little chip on my shoulder. Like, you go out on the ice, you might be the smaller person on the ice, or you might not be the fastest skater, but when you just really want something, you just grind. And that's what I did. And I was in that role for about another 3 years. I think I did some really great things at the time and put the program in a pretty solid position for success, but I always had loftier goals. I always wanted to do more, and I kind of got to a point where I felt the program would benefit from someone new coming in who really, felt at home in the nonprofit world. And that's when I started to kind of look back to, okay, what do I want to do? Let's get back into the corporate world. And the more and more I did that, the more I realized that, like, well, I love sports, and it was always my goal. I found that there were other ways for me to be involved in the industry. And it wasn't what I had thought. And I think that in terms of where you all are in your lives and your careers, it's absolutely okay and cool if you are just 100%, this is what I want to do. I want to work for the Eagles, or I want to work for a school running their collegiate department, whatever it is, that's okay. But I really encourage everyone I talk to, sports realm or not, to just be super open-minded. Because while I love sports, when you actually get into your career, whether you like marketing, whether you like journalism, whether you like operations, events, whatever it is, you're going to start to find there's certain things about the role itself that's almost more important than what team you work for or where you are. And as I got further into my career, I really realized that my sweet spot, which is still coming back to sports, is coaching and developing people. And that's really where I excelled. So when I started to look at jobs again, I was looking at the pro teams and other the USA or Olympic Team USA, rather, seeing what their offices had and their jobs, looking everywhere. And I at the time, because I was still on Team USA, I was a gym junkie. I would work out 2 times a day. I was in great shape, and I found out that my gym was hiring, and I was like, I'm a little bit more nose in the air, and I'll admit this. I was very snobby about, like, I don't want to work for a gym. Like, I've worked too hard. I need people back home to know that, like, I'm crushing life. But the opportunity was good, and I was kind of like, you know what? I'm going to apply for the role. It's a higher position. It's a higher title. It's a well-known company, so it's like the best of the best in the city. I'm going to have more people, more responsibility, so it's going to allow me to grow. But because it's just a gym, I'll be able to do like my MBA on the side and then really figure out where I want to go, right? So that was 5 and a bit years ago, and I'm now absolutely obsessed with my role. So I am at City Fitness. I am the Senior Vice President of Operations. I started as the Vice President of Sales. And it was interesting because I had interviewed for the Vice President of Operations role, and I was up against another candidate. He was probably 20 years my senior. He had 20 years of industry experience. I had none outside of liking to work out. And the company, my boss now, the CEO, and my other colleague, basically like, listen, we love your personality. Shocker. But we just were not confident that the operations role is best with you. Like, you've never, what would you do if the HVAC systems went down, or what are you going to do when there's a plumbing issue, or so we have to go with the guy who's done this for 20 years. But we have a proposition. Would you be interested in a sales role? And I'm like, actually, I would. I'm like, well, you don't have a lot of experience, so we're going to give you an offer, but they kind of came a little low. And I said, well, actually, I do have experience, but, and here's a note that I hope you all do. The resume that I provided for an operations role is very different than a resume I would provide for a sales role. And every time you submit a resume, it takes work and it takes time, but you need to tweak your resume to the industry, the role, and the company. You want to find the buzzwords that they're looking for. You'll find those in their job description. Truly read those and make sure that you are implanting them in your resume. You're making sure that you're describing your experiences and your skills in a way that relates to what they're looking for. So I was able to, in that moment, tell them about all of my sales experience, and they started a little bit higher. And one of the things that I've always taken a lot of pride in is basically I can't help it, I have to swear. It's just my ability to get shit done. So I knew that I wanted to make X amount of money, and I think you're probably picking this up by now. Money is a big driver for me. I've always wanted, like, I have a goal of kind of making, 400 to 500,000 a year. Like, that's where I want to live, and that's what I've been working towards. But coming into the company, I got a relatively good offer. It was one that was higher than what I was making before. I knew I could make more, but because I know what I can do and I'm so confident in my ability, I accepted the role. And my goal is always come in, absolutely crush and slay for your first year. And then when they understand how valuable I am, not to say that I'm irreplaceable, everybody is replaceable. And if you're not, that actually speaks poorly on your leadership and your development. But then I kind of say, listen, I've showed you 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to need this compensation. And that's one of the things I have challenges with when my staff come to me. We have about 300 staff in the company. It's myself, my CEO, and another lady who's again, she's my colleague. But a lot of these folks are coming to us and asking for the raises. And it's, well, standard of living, and I do my job every day. Okay, cool. What do you do above your job? Like, when we decided to be partners, AKA you're going to be an employee and I'm going to pay you, you agreed to do your job. So tell me what you've done above and beyond to provide value to the company, to the team, and then you can justify more money. I'm not going to give you more money because all of your friends like to go out for Taco Tuesday. I'm not going to give you more money because traveling is the thing to do. I love that those are your goals, but that's all the more reason why we should work hard, but then also make sure that you're asking for it, because no one's going to hand you anything. So with the company, I started as the VP of sales. I really had to prove myself. And again, a lot of the sports experiences that I had helped me build those team dynamics, gain trust, make sure that I wasn't kind of just going in and showboating right off the bat, right? Make sure we've got a good dynamic, a strategy, a play. We're not just going to all go, jump on the ice for a game of shinny, a pickup game, right? Like you go to the gym, a bunch of guys get together just to play some basketball. You don't have any plays, that's fine. But in the work world, as a team, we need a strategy to get to where we want to go. So, I was able to do that. And then 10 months into that, 10 months seems to be my lucky number. Not lucky for the other guy. The VP of ops, he didn't work out. And they were like, Britt, you've been like really strong. Do you think you could handle both departments for the interim? And I said, absolutely. So did that for about 1.5 years. I guess it was going really well. So I was able to do that. And then they allowed me to kind of make the choice. And over the years, our structure's changed, everything's kind of evolved and progressed, but I have just found that, what I had thought 10 years ago was going to be my career, again, sports world, pro team, whatever, that evolves and changes because you kind of find out that there's some things that are a little bit more important. And again, a lot of you may end up going that route, and that's a-okay. We need those people, and down the road, who knows? I still might get there. But I think by way of where you are right now in your school life and your careers, just be really open. And any of the moves you make, be sure they're strategic. Unless you're in a position where it's like, hey, I just really need money badly, and this is the only offer that's on the table. Be choosy and make sure that everything makes sense. Like I said, when I chose Special Olympics, it connected to something that I love because it is important to love what you do to some degree, right? But I also knew that with my long-term goals, it was going to help me. It was a strategic move. When I was younger, when I moved here, I didn't have a ton of money. I was on loans to kind of move and live in another country. So I needed a gym membership. So I went and I applied to work at a gym for a front desk. So the membership was free. Way back, I loved tanning. I still love tanning. Work at a tanning salon because it's free, right? So be very strategic in what you're doing. Now that you're in the career side, the tanning and the gym membership shouldn't be as important. But what steps is this going to bring me on to get me closer to my end goal? What skills is this going to help me develop to get me closer to what I want to do? Or, hey, I think I like marketing and events, but I also love sales a little bit. Find roles that might have all of them or start to explore some different ones to really figure out where you want to go. My biggest thing is, in our younger years, in our first, I think, 15 to 20 years of our careers, do what you have to do so that you can do what you want to do later. And that means grind. If your goal is to just be an all-star, rock star, whatever, to make a ton of money or to be at the top of the Flyers organization or, the Cubs, then you bust your butt and you do whatever it takes, moving to different places, taking different roles to build yourself to that. So I rant a lot, and I don't know if I gave any valuable information there, but I'm going to stop for a second. JP, where do you want me to go from here?
All right. Well, I got a question for you because I think it's probably an interesting question, and I don't know the answer, so I'm curious to hear this, and maybe some others are as well. How did City Fitness and/or the industry pivot during COVID?
Oh my. Whew. There's a lot of wine involved. That's
right.
So yeah, it's a great question, right? Gyms were a really challenging place. We obviously are very firm believers in the value we bring and the importance in health, mental health, all of those things. But because of the sweating, the breathing, we were kind of that, like, the city shut us down twice. We lost about 11,000 members. So we were closing in on 20,000 members, and we lost just over 50% of them. And I had, we had at that time about 200 employees, many of which were part-time, but 80 or so that were full-time staff. And we didn't really know what the loans, the forgiveness, the other packages that the government were going to give, support programs. And what we decided to do in that time was we're shut down, and we were shut down from March 18th I feel like 16th, 18th through until the end of July. So in that time, we completely took a look at our internal structure. We decided to build out programs, systems for onboarding to streamline things because we are a small business and we have 6 locations and they all felt a little disconnected. So we took the opportunity to really solidify our foundation as a company. And then we had to adapt quickly and attempt to, offer virtual programs, virtual training. We actually also then opened an outdoor gym. We found a parking lot close to one of our gyms, and we invested in a bunch of secondhand equipment that we didn't mind getting ruined. We paid $5,000 a month for a commercial grade tent, and I built a 10,000 square foot outdoor gym, platforms, dumbbells, everything. But we really did everything we could once we were even cleared to open to make sure that people felt safe. A lot of outdoor group fitness classes as well. We had to do a ton on the operational side. So it wasn't just enough to, put the stickers on the floor spread out. We had to make sure that we had everything touchless. The toilets, we needed the flushers to be touchless. The faucets, the soap dispensers, hand sanitizer. I had to order, I think I spent $22,000 on disinfectant wipes because the industry was going nuts and you couldn't get them, but I can't open a gym without wipes. So all of these small things we had to think about and prepare for. We were in a unique situation, and anybody in Philly may recall, but they also put capacity restrictions on businesses. So we had to adapt and create schedules for folks to sign up for just a regular workout session. It was pretty wild, but while we saw that shift to kind of virtual at-home workouts for some time, it's I would say 90% back to normal. People need community. They need to come in. We kept our efforts up with our CF Live, which is our virtual programming, built our own studio, but it just doesn't have that demand. So it set us back about 3 years. We just last year came close to what we did in 2019. And we're still only at 16,500 members. And again, we were close to 20,000. So it's been quite the ride.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I want to hear from some of the students. What questions? Everybody should have at least one question. Don't be shy. Who's got a question for Britt?
Who's the best?
I got a question.
All right, there you go.
So being in the position of a vice president, do you, I guess, prefer like that kind of work compared to, like, say, a different kind of position that isn't so high up in the company? Or like you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I do, Colin. So I do. I really, part of me, when I kind of mentioned earlier, like my nose in the air when I was like, I'm going to work for a gym. So I've always enjoyed the feeling that I get with titles and things like that, but more so because I feel that it comes with a lot of added responsibility and accountability. And I've always taken pride in my ability to lead teams through challenging decisions, through new trends, whatever that is. So for me, I like the higher position, but mainly because I'm just responsible for so many people. And I know they're counting on me to ensure that their careers are strong, that they've got, a solid, livelihood and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of the higher level positions for sure.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for the question. It's like, no, I don't want to ask this.
Yeah, what you got, Kyle? What you have?
Hello. I just wanted to see if I know that you're with City Fitness right now, and you said that your dream was always be like in the top end of like a NHL, NFL, NBA franchise. Would you, if given the opportunity, would you still move from the position you're in, or do you feel comfortable? Do you see yourself there in the long term?
Yeah, great question. So I think it's always important to be open-minded, right? So, I mean, I'm always open to opportunity, to growth and development. And I think for me, as long as I feel like I am growing, learning new things, evolving, and impacting the company. I'm open to staying put for some time, but I also have to recognize that like things change. So I don't think there can really be a finite answer. I think it's just, again, kind of being open. But on the other side of that coin, as I was saying, you know, being open to different opportunities, especially when we're starting out, what I've learned, and I don't think I expected, and why this is no longer just a gym to me, is it's been a really unique opportunity working for a small business, which I never thought I would do, because it's allowed me to accomplish more faster. Whereas if I'm kind of in the big bullpen with just hundreds and hundreds of employees and I have to claw my way to the top, it's a lot more challenging. So I was able to get a lot more responsibility quicker. I was able to get a lot more money quicker. And I really love the direct impact my daily work has on the company. Whereas if you're in a really large company, you still have impact, but they might be a little bit more set in their ways. There might be a little bit more structure. So really long answer, which I think you guys are all sensing is a theme of mine. But yeah, I think you just always stay open, and I'm always open as well. But I really do love what I do. I love my team, and I'm still challenged every day.
Well, yeah, Britt, I would add to that. You know, I think that's a great point in terms of just being open to opportunities. You know, I had always worked in my career in professional sports, as you guys know, and had an opportunity to work for Special Olympics in the nonprofit world. And it was probably one of the most rewarding things I did in my career. And I really did learn a lot. I thought, well, okay, I've worked in sales and I've worked in operations. I've worked at the highest levels of sport. I can do this nonprofit. And in many ways, I learned a lot. And I'm really thankful that I got that experience and was able to work in that space. And that's not something I would have actively gone out and looked at had it not been for networking, building relationships, meeting people like Britt and Eric, as we mentioned earlier. And so, yeah, I think that's great advice. Sam, you got a question?
If you had to go back and do one thing differently, what would it be?
Ooh, darn you, Sam. One thing differently. Okay, so is this a master's program or undergrad?
Undergrad, bachelor's degree.
Okay, cool. So I would probably do my master's differently. I think generally there's a shift right now, so I'm not sure where all of you land on kind of your thoughts and the needs for degrees and all that kind of stuff. But when I was in school, it was very much like you needed to have as many degrees as possible, and that was going to give you the best start, the best chance in terms of your compensation, all of that kind of stuff. I think I would have probably potentially gone a different path. I just sort of felt like I really want my MBA, but I only think it's good if it's from an Ivy League, and I don't have the grades for Ivy League, so I'll do sports business. And again, both of those were going to get me to the sports industry. But I think in retrospect, while I learned some really cool skills and had some great experiences, I don't think that necessarily did anything crazy for me based on my goals. Basically, after I got my job with Special Olympics, which I don't think would have been the make or break, that diploma, that degree, whatever the heck you want to call it, became a piece of art on my wall. It's over there. It's beautiful and very expensive. So I think just in terms of going back, I would have been a little bit more strategic and a little bit more mindful about my schooling. In my undergrad, I probably would have dug down a little bit deeper and made sure I was really great with my grades. I took so much pride in like not having to put a lot of effort in and still getting B's. And that held me back a little bit. But yeah, I think if any of you are considering master's programs, which is fantastic because there still is a lot of value, all I would say is be sure you know your path and get some life experience first if you can, because there are so many students, classmates that I went to school with that were fresh out of their undergrad, had no work experience, and you pay so much money for a master's, but if you have no experience, in my position now as a senior VP, I'm not hiring you. I don't care what diplomas you have. but I'm not going to hire you. If I do, it's going to be low level. So the schooling piece would have been something that I just would have been a little bit more thoughtful and strategic about.
Yeah, Britta, I actually had this exact same conversation with another student this week, not in this class, but a different class. And he was asking me about master's degree, and he's a sports marketing major. And I said, look, I think there's a value in going back and getting your master's, but I also think that in sport, you don't necessarily need it to get that entry into that first job. And it also, I think, helps first get experience, figure out where you really want to go, and
100%.
then figure out the degree that's going to get you to the next step.
Absolutely. Because now, even when I want to go somewhere else, for the position that I'm in, and now the kind of work that I go after, no one's going to give two poops about my sports management degree, right? It's like, okay, cool. What's your business? What's your this? I'm like, oh, well, I've got experience, luckily. So take some time, think about it, get that experience. And the other thing that's interesting there is if you can get your foot in a company, if it is a big sports team or otherwise, they may pay or contribute to that goal, that certification, that program, et cetera, especially if you show that you're a valuable employee and they want you to grow and develop. So,
yeah. So they're good. This kind of leads me to my next question, because we have I got about 5 or 6 minutes left. So, and again, we appreciate your time. What advice would you have for students looking to get experience, looking to break into the sports world? What from your perspective, what types of advice would you give?
So, I mean, continuing on the theme, be open, don't just go for, like I said, kind of those major four, look at local leagues. How can you get involved in, a minor league, or even just kind of the hometown football team, whatever, like what can you do to get experience that is relevant? What ways can you network? I think if you have the opportunity to join committees, young professional committees, or other boards, whatever that is, to contribute. I really, I was lucky in Special Olympics because I ran a few of our boards, and I met some really awesome people that kind of helped me network and make some connections. I taught hockey as well as a side job to assist, but I did it for Ed Snyder Youth Hockey Foundation, which I felt was going to help me make some connections with the Flyers, which it did. So yeah, be open, be strategic about where you want to go. And then I think when you find an opportunity or some opportunities that you're interested in, you've got to be unique. You don't just send me your resume or apply on the site, which you have to do from an HR perspective, but like find a way to make contact, to get your name in front of somebody. And that doesn't just mean LinkedIn. Hello, Britt, I submitted my resume. Really interested. Let me know if we can chat. Give me something like, hey, Britt, sorry to bother you, but I just wanted to let you know that I did submit a resume. I've been into a couple of your facilities and I'm just in love with the culture. I really think that, I could bring something and would love to contribute to what you guys are doing. If you have any time to consider or to chat, I'd really appreciate it. When I read those, it doesn't matter how crazy my days are, and I work like 60, 70-hour weeks, I will make time for that person because they have gone above and beyond and they showed they're passionate. Everybody is going to have a degree. Everybody really wants to work here, but what's separating you and what are you doing to truly show me that you want to work here outside of sitting in the comfort of your home and pressing apply? So get creative, use the buzzwords, make sure you really research what you're doing. Don't ever go into an interview or a conversation without like really looking at the website of the company or understanding thing and doing some of that background research. And I know it's corny that people are always like, oh, make sure you have questions, but make sure you have questions in the interview, and please make sure that they're actually thoughtful. Don't ask me the regular stuff that you just Google, like what are good questions for an interview? Like really want it, and then you'll get it.
All right, so we've got time for a couple more questions. I want to kind of hear from some of you guys. What do you got? Don't be shy.
Now that I scared you with like, have thoughtful questions.
Right. Come on, guys. Don't be
Favorite
shy.
color is blue. I have a dog. I like hockey. Anything you want to ask, open book. I love when I have to beg for questions. Must have just been that thorough, JP.
Must have been. All right. Well, I guess, well, I think we did cover a lot. And again, Britt, I do appreciate your time and appreciate you joining us here today. I certainly, I hope you're open to, if anybody has any questions after the session or wants to reach out to you. If you're okay, I'm comfortable. If you're comfortable with, I can share your contact information.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think LinkedIn's always a great place to connect as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something that, I love doing. That's why I kind of do these chats. Whether it's career advice, strategy, or just more information, or if I can connect you somewhere, I am open to it. JP, I'll send you my work email. But otherwise, LinkedIn is totally cool. And yeah, good luck, everybody.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Britt. I will talk to you soon. And again, I do appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks. I appreciate it. See ya.